it never even registered like on my radar that would be even a remote possibility, that it would be offensive to people. And
Because it's not offensive.
it's not,
yeah, it's
you
not
know,
offensive.
I mean, do you see pictures of people and get angry? Like it's just a strange,
obviously.
strange.
Lauren Taylor with the monster can.
With the monster can, always.
How are you?
I mean, it's 2020, so how is everyone at this point?
I know. It has been insane, to say the least.
To say the very least.
Yeah, in all aspects of life.
I think oddly, we're going to look back and realize it was one of the most impactful years of our lives. But until we get there, right now it doesn't feel that great.
Yeah, I think it wakes you up in a lot of ways. It's like not everything is here for good. And I mean, from like a business standpoint and a personal standpoint, you just are like, you can't take things for granted, I guess is what I'm saying.
No. And I think that for the first time ever, it did even the playing field, though, because mentors that I'd had for years or people that I really respected in business, it was one of the first times ever that we all looked at each other and said, nobody knows.
That's a great point.
It was a great equalizer, yes. I think. And the companies that make it through and the entrepreneurs who figure out a way to hack themselves through it, I think will be immensely stronger than any that have come before them, in my opinion.
I think that is so true. I know from, at least for us, it was it was scary for a second, but then you're right. It's like, no one knows what's going on. Everybody's freaking out for the most part, except for my dad. He has an electric company and he's just like, business is great.
Yeah,
business is good.
Great.
But especially I feel like in this real estate world, it's a lot. But you have so much potential. There's so many places you can go at this point when the kings and the peasants are all on the same court.
I think from an economic standpoint, it's been one of the most bizarre things I've ever witnessed, because everything is falling apart in such significant ways. Like unemployment is so bad and so many people are out of work. And then if you look at something like real estate, it's been on an upswing that makes no logical sense. I mean, inflation.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. It makes sense.
Like if you just look at South Carolina, for example, and this is a small test market compared to much larger demographic markets. South Carolina is up from last year. If you go August to August, last year we're up 13% in appreciation. And we're down 32% roughly in inventory. So there's nothing on the market.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Is like people are searching for things to buy, or like there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. And that's South Carolina specific?
South Carolina specific. If you look across the country, it's worse. Inventory levels are down in some areas upwards of 50% year over year. And a lot of that I think could be spawning from fear of people listing their homes during COVID. Yeah. But I have gone, and we can talk about this or not talk about it, but I have gone during COVID into a little bit of a, not conspiracy spiral, but I mean, it's...
Oh God, yeah, I already know.
it's crazy. I mean, when you look at it and you're trying to make sense of how the world could look so different in two different areas.
Being like states or being countries, or are you talking about like real estate?
From an economical level. I think if you look across, one, we're ran by the stock market. So everything has really been hinging on how well is the stock market doing? Is the stock market doing well? And
insane.
When people feel like they're in a situation that's safer, so the stock market's only an indication of how people feel. That's it.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild, right?
You seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very enlightening in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Wait, let me pause this really quickly.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm here today with the Lauren Taylor. Hello. And she has been a very influential person in my business life and personal life, and she's fantastic, and she owns a lot of things, and I need you to explain all the things that you run and own so I don't mess it up. Please tell the people.
So we have we started with Realty Haven.
Yes.
I've been in institutional investments for like 13 years now. I started the company initially to do a full service operations company, which would basically buy houses for investors, renovate them, and rent them out. And that was our initial core model. So now we have Realty Haven, Reno Haven, and Rent Haven. We are consolidating into one set of branding, which will be great.
It's a lot.
We just moved into our new building, which you can kind of see behind us.
It's beautiful.
On Rosewood. Anybody that's from Columbia that's watching this, yes, we are the giant, bright colored mural building.
It's so pretty too. That was such a good call on doing that.
It was a really cool project to be a part of. And I think it came at I didn't intend the timing to be what it was, but it kind of came at the right timing.
Can we talk about a little bit what happened with it? And I don't know the whole story, but as they're painting it or right after they painted, someone came and wrote racist slurs of graffiti all over the brand new building.
Yeah, so we did intentionally feature Black artists first on the mural. There are now, if you come and look at it, there's every ethnicity. The whole point of the mural was to include everyone from every different background. So we have Native American tribute up there. John George, who was the last living medicine man of the Catawba tribe in South Carolina, is on the wall. We have my mentor's mom is up there, Jay Kim, who she's from Korea. And we've got, white people, Black people, artists, children, all over the board. And I think we wanted to show that there is a lot of racial complexity and backgrounds in South Carolina, even though, people from afar might not think so, but we're very diverse. And we wanted everyone to feel love from the building. So we did, McClellan Douglas, who's the artist, is phenomenal. I mean, he's done such a great job, which is evidenced by the building itself. But he also just has a heart of gold. Like he was very passionate about it, and he was also passionate about the message behind it. And so we were not even a third of the way into the mural. And someone came, it was when we weren't even thinking about it. So there was still paint left out beside the building. Someone came and, took a paintbrush and wrote "kill all N-words" on the building.
It's crazy.
Which was
crazy
crazy.
that like hate like that is, like, I don't know, is that funny to people? Is it just hate? Is it just,
I don't know. It was so, shocking in so many different ways. I think it had never even registered like on my radar that would be even a remote possibility that it would be offensive to people. And
because it's not offensive.
It's not, it's, I mean, do you see pictures of people and get angry? Like it's just a strange mentality. But I think it's just like 2020. There's this beautiful silver lining within it where we saw all of this out love and support from the community. And more people kind of took charge and said, like, came out to show support for what we were doing, which really drowned out the kind of one rogue. And I'm sure there's more, but the rogue people who want to be hateful. Yeah.
I saw that and my heart literally was just like, because I know y'all.
It was crushing.
And I know like what this means. And was Cedric Umoja a part of
Cedric's
it?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've known him for so long. He's big in the hip hop world too. I saw him and I was like, wow. Yeah, because he did the one on Millwood, I think.
Millwood.
Yeah, he was a part of that.
Yeah.
He worked on that with Love, Peace, and Hip Hop, and I had a lot to do with Love, Peace, and Hip Hop. So that was really cool to see, just like, at least for me, seeing there's a lot of times for me, there's this artistic world and then there's this business world. And I rarely see people that try to combine them. And that's what I'm always trying to do. It's like, hey, there's all this money right here and you can be all this professional person, but you can also be super creative and cool and express yourself. That's what I love about this. It was cool to see that creative side, at least people that I know, plus this business side coming together and being, it's pretty cool.
I think that was one of the intentions too, is I love artists, which I kind of have an artist soul, even though I can't do anything artistic whatsoever.
That still counts.
I have an appreciation for it. We'll say that. And I want to kind of a beacon of light for artists too, which has been amazing to see. I mean,
Yeah.
every day, now that we have the cameras out on the building, the best part about that is we get to see all the artists show up.
Yeah.
We have people here doing rap videos, doing, we had a saxophonist
Do
come
they
and shoot a
ask?
video here.
Do they ask?
No, and
Okay,
we're
I
going to put
wondered.
up signs to
Yeah.
encourage people
Yeah.
because we can tell some people will come at nighttime.
Yeah, that's
so I
what I
think
was
they're
wondering.
afraid to
Yeah,
come.
yeah.
So we're Julia on our marketing team, she made sure it's trying to make the Facebook page for it and make sure people know, like, we want people to come and use it. That's what it's for.
And what are you calling this space?
So we also have to back up. We have all of the operations companies, which are our real estate companies that do brokerage services, renovation services, and property management services. And then we've got the Haven. Obviously, I have a thing for the Haven.
The Haven word.
The Haven, which is our event space. We didn't intend to design this building as an event space, but it just kind of came together that way.
It's beautiful.
So
this is one of the rooms right now.
This is one of the rooms that we're in. Yeah. And so we have that stuff going on. So the event space is called the Haven. The mural itself was titled by the artist as a Southern Affair.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so cool to see where, I don't know, like when I first met you, I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. And you were one of my first major clients. Like, you were my first really big fish. And just to see both of the growths and all the ways things go, it's pretty cool.
It's cool to watch. Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's the best part about growing in business with people is that you get to see all these different pathways. And I'm sure you yourself too have come to many forks in the road this year of like, am I going to go this way? Am I going to go this way? You have to make a hard decision. And at each fork, you have the ability to kind of reinvent yourself. And I think this year presented us with an opportunity unlike any other to reinvent ourselves.
I'm definitely taking advantage of that full effect. It's like becoming, for me, I'm on this journey of like becoming the person that I actually want to be and the person that I like, falling in love with myself pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it's been really important. Not that I didn't like myself before, but it's just fixing all those little things that I, slightly have a problem with or that I want to be better at. And along that journey, you meet people and you do things and you grow all the way around. It's pretty cool. Discipline has been a big thing for me, like a huge thing.
Well, discipline's hard, and I think it's, you and I have had a lot of like deep conversations before. But one of the interesting things about trying to be a disciplined person is like what your definition of discipline is. And
true.
I think that their personal development material that's out there can be a big asset in some ways. And I think I've shared this with you in the past, but the difficult thing about it is that if you are a person that takes things literally, then you will make yourself feel like a constant failure because of the fact that you're trying to live up to a standard that's unrealistic. It's something someone wrote in a book that they probably weren't even executing.
Yeah, they may have done it one day.
So you've got this image in your head that I've got to wake up. We used to joke about this on the Real Estate Deal Talk podcast. Like, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. and I've got to meditate. I've got to journal, and then I've got to go for a run.
There you go. It's got to be like 3 miles.
I got to do some stretching too,
after the run.
Center myself, make my goal list for the day, and then start my day.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of a lot.
and that's before your workday even starts,
And that's imagining you don't feel terrible by the end of the day, or not extremely drained, or you didn't stay up late the night before, or ate pizza, drank beer. That totally changes everything if you do stuff like that. Yeah, I read some of those self-help books, but I think for me, I'm just going with my gut. So like I made this video recently about leaving LA, and one of the things I said is, if I want to be the person that if I throw something towards the trash can and it misses, I want to be the person that picks it up and not just leaves it there for the next 12 hours or whatever. Like, not food, obviously, but a piece of paper or something. I've always been the person that I just will be like, I'll do that later. I won't make my bed, or, I mean, that's kind of a lot, making your bed every day. But there's little things like that, making those little improvements. And I fail every day dramatically, but I'm not too hard on myself.
You've learned to give yourself more permission to make mistakes.
Because you have to be kind of careful. I feel like when you say, what was that? What is that noise? Is that the air vent?
That must be the air vent.
The air vent.
Should I turn it off?
If you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can. But if you can't, it's okay. Time out. Yeah. Too serious.
Too seriously.
That's what's what.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit, and I want to talk about the conspiracy stuff. First, I do want to hear what you're talking about with the stocks as well and the stock market. But I know that when all this started, I was heavily looking into conspiracies in general. I feel like probably the more unrealistic ones, but I went down the rabbit hole of pretty much Trump being the savior. Have you seen that one? Pretty much. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was like, felt like weeks. I just was like reading new things every day.
Got stuck in rabbit holes.
Yeah. What is it called? It's like the WW something. It's like this, I can't remember the name of it, but it's this group of people who believe that he was best friends with Kennedy's son, and that Kennedy's son is alive.
Right.
And he's trying he came to office to avenge Kennedy's son or something. Crazy. And of course, you get the Pizzagate stuff that kind of connects it all in.
All of that.
I mean, it can be convincing, but I
think that's what makes a good conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
It has enough to it that it makes you go, I mean, that's possible.
It could
and the scary thing is that anything's possible. But, you and I had talked through text message and stuff about Social Dilemma, the new Netflix documentary. And that ties everything together, right? I think that the biggest, if we were going to choose a conspiracy theory to believe in, the most viable one is actually not really a conspiracy. It's more along the lines of we're manipulating each other in a significant fashion. People of like-minded mentalities group together, and we've caused this world that lives in very extremist views. Most people, have very strong opinions about what they believe in, and which has never been an issue before, but the ability to spread that information as quickly as they can. Like in the documentary, one thing that clicked with me really hard was that they said that fake news or news that is incorrect spreads 6 times as fast as correct information. And it's because it's shocking, right? Like people want, especially during COVID, I think, we're stuck at home and everyone was uncertain. A lot of people lost their jobs. People, and for business owner, anybody that's not a business owner, I'll tell you right now, it was not better for us by any stretch of the imagination. Probably emotionally damaging in a lot of ways because we had no control over it.
Yeah, it was scary. We got to the point where so you have clients and then you're doing good, and then all of a sudden it was just like a 1 week period that usually for us it lasts like a week. It might be a lull, you only get a couple appointments and it's like I'll be fine next week. But this was like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and we were just like, what are we about? Like, I'm literally,
what is gonna happen?
Yeah, I have this business that's doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden I don't, and it was really scary. And we don't have like full-time employees, but we have like part-time people, or they pretty much work full-time, but they're contractors. So it's just how much influx we get in. So it's like all of a sudden, like, it's just you can't even pay them, and then they don't have a job, and you got to think about that. But then really you don't have a job because it was insane. It was very emotional and physically draining for sure.
Yes. I think that the biggest thing for me was I was kind of on that same kick of, looking at different conspiracy theories and just doing more introspective looking into everything. I think this time has been a time of awakening for a lot of people, of just opening your eyes and looking around and realizing that the world is a certain way and how did it get this way. And for me, what came out of that was more on the housing side. I've been on that side of the industry, like I said, for a long time. And what I saw very clearly when I had a second to pause and reflect, because we did lose a really large client at the beginning of the year. It was our largest client. They started pulling in to go vertical. That was very difficult for us. We found out right before COVID hit. So we were doing all of our adjustments and figuring out, okay, we can reposition this way or, move these things around and we'll be fine. We made a whole big plan and then everything blew up. and
Sucks.
everyone went remote. So all my employees were working from home. I was working from home. And by nature, I am the type of person that solitude is in some ways bad for me and in some ways really good for me. It's bad for those around me because I am a true ADHD brain. So if you aren't in front of me, then you don't exist. You're not here. Not that I don't love you and, you know, care about you, but...
It's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Because I never looked at it as ADHD brain. Not with you specifically, just with people that I know. I got one buddy who... It's like if we're not together, we're just not really talking much. Not that we couldn't talk or see each other, but it's just he said it the other day, it's just like when you're not with me, it's just kind of like you're not in my world right now, and it's no offense to you, it's nothing, it's just I'm just doing my thing. And I was like, that's kind of how I feel.
It's actually a real thing. It's called object permanence. So object permanence is it's like that with people or with things. So most of the time you're talking about discipline. So you probably have some object permanence if you have a difficult time remembering to do things. It stems from either relationships with individuals or let's say that I have a to-do list and I need to have my to-do list in front of me to remember to do it. But if it's there too long, then I forget that it's there too. And then
blends in with everything.
So I have to find different ways to remind myself constantly to do things. So I think that that's a normal aspect of being a human in some regards. But some people have a lot less than others. So some people have more attachment even when they're separated. And dealing with that, the emotional repercussions of COVID within like our tribe here, the people that worked with me was really difficult. And mainly because when you're the leader, you can't be truly vulnerable, right?
I've dealt with that so much. I want to be vulnerable so bad.
Yeah, in a way.
You got to kind of cut it off at a certain point.
Right.
Yeah, I think I messed up I had two younger people that worked with me, and one was my cousin, and because they don't work with me anymore. And to spare the details, I think that was the problem, is that they got too close, and then I was too honest. And then when you're a kid, because they were young, you get scared of your boss or whatever, even if it's your cousin or whatever. And so I don't know. I was too much something, and then I think it built anxiety in them.
Yeah,
because that happened to me when I was younger, and you do have to be careful. That's very true. But I mean, I've learned and watched from you too. You do a great job where I think you balance that very well, because people know that you're serious and you really got to do stuff, but you can also be friendly. But I think it's in those serious moments that's when you got to be the most. You have to define that line the most, I guess.
Yeah, I do think it can come across as being polarizing if you are, because when I'm one-on-one with someone is when I'm kind of in my element, and, you know, I can have great conversation and we can, you know, talk about anything. When you're not in front of me, then I feel very cold and distant, and it's not intentional. It just is kind of a part of my personality in a way. Those who learn to love me over time or realize that that's how I am. I try to be better. But that whole dynamic of everyone being apart, but still trying to get things done. And I honestly needed time to really reflect myself. Because I've been running at 5,000 miles an hour for the past 3 years.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And doing that was great. I learned a lot of really valuable things, but I also never took the time to pause and figure out, is this actually what I want to do? Is this the kind of company that I want to have? And what I figured out by going into my dark hole was that it wasn't the type of business that I wanted to have, and it wasn't the type of legacy that I wanted to leave. And that can be very unpopular and kind of off-putting to others, because it feels so radically different than the pathway that we were on. Because I was very attached to, for a long time, starting a fund, raising money, and going that traditional like finance route. And it really worked my whole career to get to the point where I could do that.
Yeah.
And
but was that because of financial reasons, like you wanted to get to a higher financial position, or was it because you felt like that was your passion at the time?
I think it was an accolade thing. I'm very
just like
driven by
say,
like
yeah.
accomplishment, and that to me was like the accomplishment. I would feel like I made it if I could accomplish this thing.
Got it.
Because that was the elusive. Having a fund, starting a fund was very elusive for me because I dropped out of college and, you know, I built my career just off of sweat equity and teaching myself. And so when I was younger, that resulted in a lot of insecurity, right? Of, you know, I'm around people that are highly educated and, you know, came from prestigious backgrounds. An old business mentor used to call it a pedigree, right? So they had pedigree and I didn't. And so I would overcompensate for that a lot when I was younger. And then, you know, moving into this building, I think and the mural and everything else, was kind of my line in the sand of I want to be who I want to be and not who I think other people expect me to become.
I think that is so many people need to hear that. I feel like, I know for me, I'm sure I have been insecure at some points in business, but for the most part, I enjoy like coming in and I'm like, especially like the first couple of years, it's like I'm just this kid and I'm gonna do a great job. But I mean, it might not look like I'm gonna do a great job, but I'm gonna do a great job and I'm gonna earn your trust. And it's just like a game. It's like this big game, and I get to be the underdog who doesn't have any degree. I just practice and do this and do that.
Yeah.
And that was really, really fun for me. But you do get to a point, it's like this, what you're passionate about thing. Because I know people, they look at me and they tell me now, like, you know, at first you get into business and you don't know if you're going to make it, but then you make it and then you start making money and then people are like, oh, wow, that's cool, you're doing that. But now I'm like going this very different creative route. I'm still doing business and doing those at the same time. I think is confusing for people, and they start to be like, why aren't you just focusing on like the stuff that's like making you money right now? Like, isn't that what you need? But no, this is like the passion thing. The drawing that line is so valuable, or it just,
it's really valuable.
Everything becomes like, what's the point? Because even if you have money, I mean, money does help you be happy, I think, personally, but it's
for sure,
it's obviously not everything,
right?
I feel like it's obvious, but some people it's not.
I think that's everyone has a core motivator, right? Like the thing that gets them out of bed in the morning, or the thing that for them would define success, where they could say, I did this and now I feel successful. And for some people that's, you know, accomplishing something. For others, it may just be making enough money they feel like they can support their family with a clear mind, and not worry about finances. And so I think that's where a lot of the money motivation comes from. But the issue there is that we've conditioned ourselves into thinking that you can't do well and do good at the same time, which is problematic because it's not true. You have to be increasingly more creative. You really have to dig to find the way to do it, but there's always a way.
Definitely.
And I think I've gone through over the past year so many different experiences with cutthroat business mentality, of people willing to cut you down to get where they want to go, or go around you to accomplish something that they want to accomplish. And I had a very big conundrum at the beginning of the year of, it's one of those pivotal moments where you're confronted with a feeling or emotion. Mine was, you're not rewarded for doing the right thing. So, and that's a powerful idea. If you allow that to permeate and become a true belief system, then it could have changed the whole course of my life. Because I think a lot of times that's what happens to people. They get conditioned into believing that they're not going to be rewarded for doing the right thing.
So what do you define as rewarding in that sense for most people, do you think? Like, for example, is it just, if I do the right thing, I'm not going to make money, or if I do the right thing, I'm not going to get a promotion? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, like I think it's sometimes people are confronted with, we can take my personal example, because I don't mind talking about it. Where whether it's a client or an employee or whatever the case may be, where you invest a lot into other people without thought for yourself. So I sacrificed years of my life for clients, for other people that were, within our organizational structure or whatever the case may be. And it still resulted in something negative, whether that was they decided to do something different with their business, so I no longer had their business, or whether they, went somewhere else or, tried to take clients or whatever the case may be. You've got all of these things that could happen at the end that you go into it with a mentality of, if I am a good person, if I do what's right for other people, if I support people and I love people, I can love people into that being reciprocated. And that's not always true.
It's not always true.
But that's okay. The line is you have to reach a point where you realize I'm still willing to do that regardless. I'll be a little more guarded. Yeah.
You'll be guarded smart.
Being a little more guarded. But ultimately it's still worth doing, because for the ones that you find that do reciprocate, it's the most rewarding thing that you can ever experience, and even with like a client of ours that we were working with, we separated from them. 5 months later they came back full circle and we're partnering with them on another venture.
Love it.
And so it's a lot about how you handle things too, like making sure that you're respectful and that you keep your wits about you in situations, I think is one of the most important things. But
so
knowing that you'll be burned over time, but not letting that scar you for the rest of your life is the difficult thing.
I think I'm sure that's happened, or I know it's happened to me, where I care more than other people do or whatever, and then you lose a client or whatever it is. But I feel like I learned pretty quickly exactly what you're saying, is that this is just like a dog-eat-dog world, and I can't really get caught up in the details or what this person, what they do. They do what they need to do. I literally am just offering a photography service.
Right.
So I mean, millions of people can do this. Yes, what will make me stand out is whatever creativity I'm bringing to the table. Plus, if they like me, typically that matters. And so if you just kind of think about it like that, it's not the end of the world. But I have found that this is what I believe. Maybe I just talk it up to myself, but all the creative projects that I do, it directly correlates and benefits my business in every single aspect. Yeah. I've gained so many clients just from being myself online, like whether it's a podcast or whether it's a music video or whether it's anything, some other random video that I make, or connecting with people walking down the street with a camera. People want to see, I think, that vulnerability or whatever. So if you can show it but not get too emotionally invested at the same time, I think that's like the thing that's real.
But authenticity is rare, I think. When you meet authentic people, then you can almost feel it immediately.
Yeah.
Like they kind of throw off an energy that is like almost tangible in a way.
It is. I feel like really the more and more I gain confidence, I notice things like that. And so when I'm talking to people, you look at them, you look at the little mannerisms that you're doing, or just when you enter a room, it's just like this whole this ball of something. And I heard that echo. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know. You can just tell. I can tell within the first 3 to 5 minutes if someone's authentic or inauthentic. Yeah. And immediately, if you're inauthentic, I'm just got my wall up and I'm just like, wow, that's cool. It's so interesting. People don't think that you can tell sometimes, but you can tell.
You can tell.
You can definitely tell. Let's go back for a second.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the Social Dilemma. So before I watched it, I knew it was going to be kind of heavy. So, I was just like, I want to watch it when I'm feeling, not too down or something like that. My stepdad, he's always saying, what is the cloud? Like, what is the cloud? He asks all the time. And it's like an ongoing joke. And he's just like, what is the cloud? What is the cloud? And I was like, maybe this will give me the answer. Because I never really had the answer.
A true understanding of social.
I figured it was some sort of I mean, the cloud itself, I figured it was just a bunch of computers in a room somewhere.
Right.
But I couldn't really explain it. After watching it, I was able to send that to him and my mom. And, my mom was like 53 and he's like 60. And they were able to fully understand what is happening, which I thought that was really cool that documentary was able to tell the story. And what was even cooler was when the room that they created where it's like, oh, we got to get him to grab the phone again. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? That was so interesting to me. Because
you can almost visualize yourself on the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what you do. And I'm noticing myself more and more. You said you deleted your apps.
Yeah, I deleted them.
So tell me a little
everything but LinkedIn.
Smart.
My phone.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. What made you do that? Like, how did it make you feel in that way?
I think that for me, it was, I've been observing it over the course of COVID specifically, because I think we all had more time, and more time results in wandering minds.
Yeah.
And I started reading more. That was my first step of, I need to down my screen time, because I was spending a lot of time on a screen. I work on a screen all day, on two screens in front of me. So on any given day, if you go in my office now, I have 2 actual computers, not dual monitors, 2 computers, 2 cell phones. Like it's just iPad. Screens everywhere, like all over the place.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
And then, I get home and then there's a TV screen, and there is this, pull to it that feels, I've been addicted to things. I know what addiction feels like, and that's what it feels like. It feels like an addiction. And so I'd already been kind of contemplating about it. So when it came out, I was excited because I wanted to see what they had to say, mainly because of the people that were on there. So
the presidents or like all that type of stuff.
The majority of the people that were on the documentary were part of growth strategies for social media. And those are the people that you want to hear from, because they're the ones who figured out how to keep us addicted to our phones. And
in the beginning stages, which is crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those that, aren't really familiar with how technology works, I think it does help educate more, because what they're trying to say from a high level is that they've really lost control of their algorithms. And because an algorithm itself is built with a mission. So you tell it, hey, computer, I want you to figure out a way to keep people on the app as long as possible. And that computer then learns over time, it goes through machine learning to learn how to keep you engaged more and more. Well, part of that is learning about your behavior, learning what you like, learning what you don't like. And it's only going to show you things that will either engage you or in most cases these days, anger you. The more angry that you are, the more likely you are to participate, the more likely you are to stay engaged. And what it's created really, and what I think was most impactful, is very extremist ways of thinking. And I have myself have been guilty of that, of just looking at one side, and we're not going to go, super political, but looking at one side and just thinking, how can they think that way? How do they even remotely think that what they're thinking is accurate, or whatever the case may be? And I think the documentary for me gave me more insight to everyone is thinking the way that they're thinking. The whole example about a bunch of billions of different Truman shows. And
God, that's a great example.
Were you old enough to watch Truman Show?
Yeah, actually, not then, but I watched it probably 6 months ago or something like that.
Oh, okay,
yeah, it was really
it's such a bizarre movie.
Yeah,
and if you've got younger listeners, watch the Truman Show, and you'll know what they're talking about. But that realistically is what it's become, because we're all operating on different sets of information, and I'm seeing things that are given to me because I already believe that, and which means I'm never challenging my opinion. And that's already dangerous and happens naturally in societies anyway. If you hear the old adage of take your 5 friends and average their income, and yours will be right in the middle.
It's true too.
So that part already naturally happens within societies, but it's amplified 20-fold. And what I don't want and what I won't allow is for my mental state to be manipulated. And when I watched it and really thought about it, what was clear to me is that I've been allowing something external to manipulate my thoughts, feelings, or viewpoints. And it shouldn't be that simple, right? Like you should be forced to dig deeper, be more reflective, do more research.
I totally agree. It for me, since I've been an adult, I guess, a couple years, I try not to let anybody's random things they say about politics or anything upset me. It's just always, and this is when I'm like prepared mentally. I gotta be like prepared, and probably if I'm really close to someone, I might be really honest, but typically I just put up this little wall and I'm just like, let me just hear what this person has to say, and they throw it out the wall, and then I look at it and I look at their perspective and all their things, and I'm like, okay, I see what they're saying, but I probably lean towards this way. And for me online, it's definitely been about that. I was talking with someone the other day about how I want to be more socially and politically motivated, but I have both sides in my hand. I'm just like, I like what you're saying, but then what about this? And I don't really know, but this person's saying that, and so it's really hard for me to have a really strong opinion. That's what I'm trying to say, and that I can't trust the things online because exactly what you're saying, exactly what they've been saying. It's just, I read it. What I like to do is if it's super left, I call my dad maybe, and I'll be like, hey, so I read this, what you think about that? And then he gives me the opposite, and he's like, oh, this is actually why I think that's a bunch of bullshit, and blah blah blah. Exactly. And vice versa, like something far right, I'll ask someone more on the left, like, what do you think about this? But it's just so hard for me to have that strong opinion. But Facebook and Instagram make it hard. I think that's
the problem, is that we've intentionally created societies that are immensely polarizing. So everything is polarizing. That, sports are polarizing. Politics are polarizing.
It's not realistic. It's not
anything. Down to car brands. Like people will fight over what car brand's better, what cell phone brand is the better one. So and so we have this natural nature, I think, to have a tribe. So it helps people. That's why we've always called like our group a tribe. Naturally, people want to feel like they're a part of something, and they want to feel connected to something. And that's achieved by separating groups out into two individual categories. And what I think was most interesting for me about the documentary is it's a very bold statement for them to say that they truly believe it can cause a civil war. And I wholeheartly agree. I think we're already unstable. And what it does is it forces you then to say, even for those, let's look at like our parents' generation, right? Even for those who don't have extremist views by nature, they over time will be exposed to enough information. So it'll pin them in a corner. So it'll say like, well, it seems like you lean a little more right. So let me bombard you with information on what that view of the world is. If you're left, let's bombard you with information on what that view of the world is. The real people and the majority of the people, I think, are really in the middle. Exactly. Most people I talk to, there's a lot of people that have extremist opinions. There are, but most people that I talk to are overall confused. They're like, how do we only have two choices? How does the political system make any sense?
I feel like that's
like, what's the financial system? How does that make any sense?
Continue. Did you lose your train of thought completely?
No.
Okay. Cool.
So I was saying, I don't think how most people are just looking around and saying things don't make any sense, right? And that kind of brings things back full circle to what we were talking about earlier, which is, it's not unfair to say that most things don't make sense, but it's because they're so antiquated. If you think about our political system, if you think about our financial system, all that stuff was designed, like the Declaration of Independence was written with a quill pen. With a quill pen.
Yeah.
It was written with a quill pen.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Having some edits or updates
would probably be nice.
In our best interest, right?
Every 100 years, every 50, something like that.
Our population was significantly smaller. We didn't have as many states at the time. So the same type of governance in general is not logical. And I don't think that what's dangerous is for people to lose sight of that, lose sight of the fact that we need to innovate and we need to drive change, and instead get caught in this, it's someone else's fault, which is what's happening now, right? The right brain blames the left blames the right. That's a tongue twister.
That is. I want to, because I only have a couple minutes left, but that is a great point, and we don't have a long time to talk about it, but I find my soul is constantly conflicted between capitalism and, I don't really know the other word, socialism, social issues. Yeah. It's like, if I'm the strongest on the boat and the boat's sinking, like, are we all going to die, or am I just going to, like, can I kill 3 people who are on the boat to survive? Like, what? I mean, that's a really dramatic example. But for example, like the capitalism, the idea of, I started from nothing, I didn't know anything, and I grew in this business world, and I'm trying to be a millionaire by this and do that and do this, do that. And everyone can't be that because I'm going to beat them all. And like, that's like, you get that ego or the pride or whatever it is. That is a very touchy thing, because socially, like, you see someone homeless on the street, and I personally am like, wow, that's really sad. But am I going to go give them this $1,000 that I have to make them better? Probably not. Why? Am I a bad person? What's right? What's wrong? That's like that's where I personally am, like, tottering back and forth on. I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think what I would challenge there is exactly what we were just talking about, is those are the two constructs that you've been presented with. Not necessarily the only thing that exists.
Like
we've just been conditioned to believe that if you're not a capitalist, you're a socialist, which is no different than if you're not a Democrat, you're a Republican. If you're not, this, then you're that. It's all of this very polarizing ideals that I think, if enough people can come to a place where we can actually condition society to realize that we have the power and ability to rethink and re-innovate. I mean, if you looking at that chart that they were showing of, computers and how computers have advanced over time.
That was like trillions or something.
Trillions, yeah. If we took the same approach to innovating things within our society themselves, and not just creating giant marketing machines, which is what we've essentially created, then we could make big leaps in the right direction. But the problem is that everyone kind of gets stuck in a mentality of, it's either this or that. And since I'm somewhere in the middle, so what's wrong with me, right? It's almost the difference between, like, someone that's religious or an atheist and someone in the middle. They finally have a name, like agnostic, right?
Yeah, that's what I call myself. I'm just like, I don't really know, but
I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Personally, anyone that comes at me, I was just talking to my stepmom last night about this. Anyone that comes at me yelling or, like, has a really strong opinion, I just kind of immediately am like, there's something off right now. I don't know. You're like, really, not only are you probably aggressive, but I get that you're passionate, but it's really hard for me to express that. So, like, that vibrant energy towards something that's not so black and white.
It's because you're not filled with fear.
Maybe.
People aren't passionate like that unless they're afraid.
That's a great point. That really is a great point.
It's all, like, I watched the both conventions, right? Republican and Democrat. Okay. And what you realize is that it's all fear mongering is all that it is. It's one side telling the people that follow that side, you should be afraid. Be afraid of the other people. Be afraid of the other people. They're going to ruin everything. So everything's going to implode.
Yeah. Like, no real discussion or growth going on.
And there's no talk of what their plans are.
Yeah.
Either side, no one's talking about what the actual plan is. It's all just feeding people with fear. And the more that people operate out of fear, the more aggressive they become, because it's a defense mechanism. It's like,
that's what it feels like. That's why immediately I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I'm not really having this conversation with you. Yeah.
You're like,
I'd back up.
because it's scary when they approach that way. Because you're like, I don't know where this is coming.
It's too much negative energy right now. I'm trying to stay away from negative energy all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have to end it here.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Do you have anything that you want to tell the people watching? Follow something or something cool you have happening? Anything of the sort?
Yeah, so we're, I think for us, the biggest thing that's coming up soon is we're launching the nonprofit. And so we're working on 501c3 status now.
You have a name of
Haven Home.
Haven Home. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
So it'll end up being Realty Haven and Haven Home. Will be the for-profit, nonprofit side. We're focused on affordable housing. So our intention is to buy homes and keep them at true affordable levels for people.
I love it.
So we're looking for, community support when we get things up and running. Outside of that, I would just say for everybody to, protect your mind right now. It's
protect your mind. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Cold Corner Podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Good job.
That was fun.
There's so many things to talk about. It's crazy sometimes.